Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kayla on the Road Trips. This is a special edition where I actually record my entire podcast in the car on a road trip. One thing that I am definitely thankful for is that I don't have to take road trips alone, and the reason why is because I have my fiance Andrew with me, and he's going to join me on the podcast today. And I'm so excited to chat with him. We asked on Instagram to see if you had any questions about travel, and I got a couple. So we're going to chat about that, and we're also going to share some other stuff with you. Who knows? All travel related, probably. So welcome to episode 17. Hey, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I don't know how many times I've had you on the show now, and this is probably like number 6. 5? 6?
4?
Do you know? 4? If you're interested in listening to any of the other episodes that Andrew has been in, I will link everything in the show description and the show notes, and you can check that out. But yeah, so today, Andrew, like I said, I asked my friends on Instagram what they were wondering about travel, what their biggest thoughts were, and things like that. And I thought that I would share some of those questions with you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, so sure.
What are we drinking today, Andrew?
We're not sponsored by McDonald's. Currently, it's their Monopoly promo on, where you get lovely parts of Canada with every cup of coffee, as well as some of their great foods. McDonald's, if you're out there, specifically McDonald's Canada, but we're not picky. If you're looking for someone to be an influencer for you, hit us up. We'll drink your coffee non-stop.
We will. We actually visit quite often. There's one really close to our house, and quite frankly, they have my favorite coffee. Unfortunately, they don't have any sort of non-dairy option, so I usually end up buying it and then having to take it home and put my own creamer in it. But also, you win some, you lose some.
To be fair, let's not say they're the best coffee until legally they allow us to be there. They sponsor us, because in case we have to pick someone different, it's just don't want to go back on our word.
Yeah, awkward. Andrew, my first question today comes from Jillian, and she asks, what is the biggest stressor on any trip?
There's a few of them, and it depends at what point in the trip. But I would say the biggest one for me is the logistics, usually of the first travel day. And the reason I say that is because there can be multiple things that come up. Could be flight delays, could be flight transfers, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes we've also had it where when we travel, we've gone through customs in different countries. I never really have an issue when I come back home because I know we're going through Canadian customs and all that stuff, so it's a little bit more at ease. I'm not too worried about it. But whenever it's like even going to the States, or if you have to, go through some international countries in Asia, there's a lot of concern about, like, do we have all the proper documentation? Are we allowed to go? So there's a lot of those, and again, if you've listened to previous podcasts where I know you and I have discussed it, and I'm sure you have as well, I am the organized one when it comes to travel. You like to organize maybe or plan out certain things, like where, like events, or where we're going to go or where we're going to see. But for me, it's like logistical travel that is kind of my thing. So a lot of times I think I put unnecessary stressors on I say unnecessary, but frankly to me they are necessary. I put stressors on myself because if we get to customs and we've messed up something, we have to redo a form, or if we didn't follow the proper guidelines, or whatever the case may be. And I'm saying these have never happened to us, but I put that onus and that responsibility on myself, because I know that's not your forte, and I know that's not where you are going to be great at. So like, I know for me, that's what I gotta nail it. So if there's ever a mistake or an issue, I take that on myself. The one, and not to drag this out too long, but the one that I always remember, and that kind of like, for me is like always something like, don't let this happen again, is when we got to China, when we were leaving Thailand. We were leaving Thailand, and we had a transfer in China, and I apologize, I can't remember which airport it was, because we came in through one and left through another, but But we were going through, and I can't remember exactly the logistics of it, but long story short, we were there for a certain amount of period of time that would have required us to have a visa. I think it was to go through China or something of this sort, because we were there for so long, even though it was like maybe a day or something like that.
Yeah.
So then what they did is, because of that, and because we didn't have the proper paperwork, then they were like, okay, well, fine, we're gonna have to put you on a later flight, and we are going to have to give you a 24-hour temporary passport or visa, and like whatever. But it was always like very rushed. It was like, we're changing your flights. Here's a visa. We're gonna put you up in this shady hotel that's like near the airport, and it was like, that was part of it. There's another part of it that I hadn't printed off any of my travel things. I usually print off all of my travel things, all my tickets. You are someone who likes to have your flight tickets on your phone.
I love my phone for those things, yeah.
So which is good, because I know there's some Apple phones who have like the flight pass or whatever they call it, like, so it has all of that there.
Yeah.
But at this point, when we were in China and at this airport, they needed proof that we were continuing on with our flights, that we weren't going to just show up, go through customs, and then be like, haha, now we're in your country. They needed proof that we're going elsewhere. And I didn't have anything. I was like, oh, I have everything on my email. And my email was Gmail. And at the time, and maybe even currently, China doesn't like Google. So we were not able to access Google while we were in there using their internet. I couldn't really have a VPN at the time, because I was just using my phone. But again, going back to the question at hand, those are always in the back of my mind when I'm planning logistics around the travel days, because that's where I get nervous and that's where I stress the most.
Yeah. I actually talk about that kind of in detail on episode number 2, when I talk about the things that I wish that I had known about travel beforehand, and visas is definitely one of those things that I always look up beforehand. But I was going to agree, my biggest stressor on trips is just the flights. It doesn't even matter if it's like the day of or if it's coming up for it. We've had some horrible luck with flights recently. I mean, the state of the world, I kind of understand it. There aren't as many flights going out, and they have to like juggle things around. Flights are getting canceled all the time, things like that. But even now, we're going to visit my family in Winnipeg for the holidays, and we've booked that. I think there's like 40 something days left before we go, but we've already gotten 6 changes to our flights. And I think that's the most stressful thing. It's like showing up to the airport too early, showing up to the airport too late. Will there be space on my flight? Is it going to be overbooked? I think anything surrounding flights is a little bit stressful. And I've said it before as well, like when we were coming back from Winnipeg the last time, our flights got pushed and pushed and pushed and ended up being rebooked, and we had to be on the phone and So, yeah. What would you recommend for anyone who may be experiencing the same type of stressors? What would you recommend they do in order to prevent that stress from happening and kind of like preemptively cut things back?
For me, it's always just knowing the layout of the day. When are your flights? How long do you need to be there in advance? With COVID, there's some airlines that have recently changed how long you need to be in advance to certain flights, so I would always look up that kind of information. I would print everything off, because I've been in places, not just the China situation, but I've been in other situations where I don't have internet, or for some reason the airport is in this really shady place that doesn't properly have, service. So you're like, great, now I don't know what to do, and I can't rely on my phone for this. So I print off everything, ticket numbers, flight numbers. I also make note of my layover. When we were booking our Winnipeg flights, there were literal flights that had layovers of 42 minutes. And that makes me nervous, because slight delay on the tarmac, especially in winter, de-icing planes, you could be late. Like there's so many things that could go into it. You could have to run across the airport just to get to the proper gate. Like I would rather book a ticket that has an hour and a half layover than 42 minutes, just for the sake of that kind of calm. if you will. So I would get all that, figure out the layovers, figure out if the layovers are enough for you to like get food or get to where you need to be on time, like what kind of comfort level are you going to be at. And then that carries over usually if you're going to a destination, figure out where you're going. What's your first night? Are you going to a hotel? Do you have the address to it? And then how are you going to get there? Are you just going to hope for the best that there's a taxi cab there that, you know, maybe speaks English if that's your language, and if that's the only, you know, that might be the language you guys can communicate in. Do you have the currency? Like all those other items. It's just like, I would just try to plan your whole first day until you get to that hotel room. And then at that point, to me, that's a relax. Then I can enjoy my vacation.
So my next question for you is kind of built off of Jill's question, because I like the way that she's going with the travel day, or the stressors, which ended up being our travel days. What is your funniest travel day story?
I think there's 2 of them, and I think these are 2 separate days. I'm trying to remember now. And I wouldn't say they're the best, but I would say they're kind of the stories that we often talk about. And you may have mentioned them before, so apologies if there's some duplication there. But I think the first one, and this is maybe the less fun of them, was the day in Vietnam, and I can't remember exactly where we were. I think we might have been in Hanoi.
Yep.
And I can't remember. We were going to the
exactly what
and we were going to the airport, or we were gonna go to the airport, but it was like a later flight.
Yep.
And I think I think we had gone.
Oh, it was. You know what? It wasn't the airport. It was going to the train. We were taking the train to Sapa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just had this memory come up on Facebook.
And and I think that's maybe why I'm thinking about it, is because you had mentioned it to me. But we had gone to Pasture, had we not?
Yes.
So one of our favorite
brewing
companies or breweries that we've ever come across is Pasture Brewing in Hanoi. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember if that was like how we started the day or exactly what had happened, but do you remember?
We had to check out of our hostel pretty early. I think we had to be out by 10, but our train wasn't until night because so if you've never been to Vietnam before, basically Sapa is up in the mountainous regions a little farther north than Hanoi, and so you take a night train. It's overnight. You get off at like 6 a.m. and then you take a bus from the train stop to Sapa, and it's up in this mountainous village, really close to a bunch of hill tribes and things like that. But because you take the overnight train, the train doesn't leave until like 10 p.m. I think.
Something like that.
So we had to be out of our hostel at 10 a.m. and we had to be on the train at 10 p.m. and we had this whole day.
I think we had our stuff with us, right? We had our stuff with us.
Yeah,
we couldn't leave. We didn't want to leave them because I think the train station wasn't in our path.
It was a completely different direction.
Like we wouldn't have been able to go back to the hostel, grab it, and it wouldn't have been worth it. So I think we were like, screw it, let's just carry it.
So we were going to walk around for the day. I think according to my Facebook memory,
we went to Pasture.
We went to Starbucks. And we were going to go do some work in Starbucks.
Sorry, that's the Starbucks we were talking about last night. That was a Starbucks that last night, I think you and I wanted to do work, so we were looking for a place.
I was talking about the McDonald's last night.
Oh, so we were talking about the McDonald's last night?
Starbucks.
I was thinking about the Starbucks.
We were talking about like how in different countries, some of the restaurants that we have here, like Starbucks and McDonald's, are different or cooler, or like they've just got different styles to them. And so we were talking about a lounge that we went to, like a Mick Cafe lounge in Vietnam that we went to.
But the Starbucks had the same thing too. It was off of an office building, and it had the normal like seats with like 2 people and like a table and whatnot. But then also like a loungy area.
I was gonna say it was the one with like I've been to one in like the States where it's more technical. They're brewing and you can sit down and watch them brew.
A little
your
bit more like
drinks
craft,
and stuff like that.
Craft
Craft.
Coffees. Anyway, long story short, yes, we went there because I think we had work to do and we needed internet and we needed power. Yeah. So we were like, Starbucks, we're good with that, and they had it there. And then I can't remember. I'm assuming we probably had it planned.
I think we were just walking. We randomly stumbled upon Pasture,
we really?
And it was like the best mistake we've ever made.
Going from that, as you were saying, we were going to go to the train later that day, so we were going to go to that brewing place, and we ended up stopping at Pasture for a flight, And then I think we were thinking of like, oh, well, let's go get food. Let's go somewhere else. Like we were thinking of like kind of walking around.
To the train station or something.
Maybe hitting up like brew pubs or stuff on the way.
Yeah, we kind of got a little tipsy from our flights. Their flights were giant. Like they had, I want to say we each had like 12 on our flight.
No, I think we each had
8 or?
We might have had 8. But we we almost finished, like we almost had one of each of their beers on that thing. Anyway, long story short, we get out. I think we're fine. We might have been a little tipsy. Yeah. We go a little bit, and it is a little bit in like an alley, like so it's not on the main road. And to be frank, we were also in a place that arguably wasn't a part of like the main part of Hanoi. And what I mean by that is like the roads and sidewalks weren't that great. And you being klutzy, you roll your ankle. Yep. And you step funny and you roll your ankle. And
I have to preface though that rolling my ankle is kind of normal. I've been doing it all my life.
It's not normal the way you do it. Normal people roll their ankle and it hurts and it stings, and then within 3 to 4 hours maybe you're like, okay, I think I'm okay. That was I tweaked it a little bit.
No, mine does that too.
Yeah, but yours is like a gamble. You like roll the dice every time you roll your ankle because it could be like a roll.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a barrel roll.
I've had some bad ones.
Yeah.
And I've had some that were not so bad. So.
And this one may have been part fatigue, part inebriation, where you rolled it and you were kind of like pissed, and I think I was also kind of a little inebriated and tired, and was kind of like, hey, maybe watch where you're walking, which is never a great thing to say to anyone. But anyway, that was, I think, in short, my response. And then I don't know how long after that. It wasn't long.
Nope. It was probably like 2 minutes.
You roll your other ankle, which I don't. Anyway, so it was one of those things where, and the reason why I say it's like the funniest, because at the time it was not funny. I think you and I were done with that day. We were done with each other.
I cried and said, we need to go to a mall now.
You said you need to sit. I think you were like, I need to go. I just want to sit somewhere. And I think we had talked about going to a mall to like. Because I think we were like, there's food, we'll sit down, we'll just do nothing. Yeah. And it's also, everything walking is indoors. Like, you can't roll your ankle in a mall, but I'm sure you would have.
I probably have, so.
Anyway, I think and that one, was that the train ride that we always joke about?
Yes, okay. Yeah.
So we don't need to go into that. There's a train ride that I think.
I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the show, if you wanted to talk about
it. Yeah, we could. Kayla rolls both her ankles. We aren't too pleased with each other or with the situation. We go to a mall. I think that's where I have the KFC Black Burger from.
No, I think that was Thailand.
That was Thailand? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we ate a couple things there.
I feel like we did have KFC. I don't know why we had KFC.
Then I think we went to the airport. Yeah. I don't remember, it's not the airport. We went to the train station. Yeah. We got on our train. It's kind of funny, not at the time, definitely not at the time, but looking back on it, we were just like, that was like one of those days where you're like, nothing goes right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so we get into the train.
And we couldn't have planned for that either.
No. Well, you can't plan for you sometimes.
I guess the things that we could have planned around it is that we could have had a more solid plan about what we were going to do with those hours of breaks between the two.
You could have had a more solid footing too, but anyway. Well, I digress. But we get to the train. Yeah. We have a sleeper car. So the sleeper car, you may have mentioned this before, but it was 4 bunk beds, and Kayla and I are the first ones into our room. And generally, people may say there's different preferences, like, oh, let's take all the left side or all the right side, or oh, let's take the bottom. I prefer to take the top, because then you don't have creepy people looking down at you, and it's a lot harder to look up. So for us, I think it was like a safety thing.
I didn't know that was your reasoning.
Yeah,
that's why you pick the top in hostels too?
Yeah. Huh. Because it's easier. I would rather peer over and have someone creepily like looking up and being like, the fuck, why is this happening? Versus me sleeping and having someone look down. And I know that like nobody does that in hostels, but I know that's the mind working for you.
That's so funny. I used to be the opposite. When I was a kid, my brother had a bunk bed, and I would always sleep on his top bunk because I didn't like my bed. And now that I'm an adult, I like the bottom bed. And as we just heard, I am klutzy beyond belief. So the reason why is because I don't want to have to get up in the middle of the night and fall down that ladder.
Well, I was going to say,
I have to pee.
I would also argue, yes, if we are traveling in a hostel situation, not hostile situation, but a hostel situation, the bottom bunk's also a good idea for the bathroom, because then you're not waking up the other person by trying to hop down, or in your case, hurt yourself by trying to get off the bunk bed. Anyway, we take the top bunks.
No, I took the bottom.
You took the bottom?
I took the bottom.
You took the... bottom on the same one, empty?
No, I think there are different ones.
Why would we do... Oh, no. We were going to, and then we realized nobody was showing up.
Oh, yeah.
We realized that nobody was showing up. So we were like, oh, sweet, we get both of these we get 4 bunk beds to ourselves. So I think you would move down.
I was on the bottom. I took the pillow from the top bunk.
Yeah, because for your
put my
ankle.
ankles on.
So anyway, that happens.
Yeah.
We go to sleep, and then like 2 a.m, maybe?
No, I think it was before that.
Maybe it was like 12. Maybe we were like an hour or 2 hours into sleeping.
I want to say it was probably, like an hour of sleep. And we get woken up, our door opens.
Our door opens, which was locked, which is the scariest thing.
Yeah.
Because then your mind is like, are we getting attacked? Are someone just checking in on us? Are we in the wrong rooms?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? So, yeah, definitely a little bit of a mind race kind of situation.
So in walks the cabin attendant with 2 people behind him, and they start chatting away. They flip on the lights. They took the pillow from underneath my foot. And then they got into the top bunks. And then they proceeded to talk for another, half hour in nice loud tones. Andrew and I are there, texting each other in our beds. But, yeah, they came in out of nowhere and slept in these bunks. And at the time, I think I posted on Facebook, and I was like, who does this? Who doesn't know where they're going when they get on a train?
I think they had gone to the wrong room, or were they in in the seat cab, and they're like,
didn't
oh,
realize
we have
they
a
had
sleeper
a bed.
cab, oh, that's on us.
And I posted that, and a friend of mine responded on it, and he said, chances are that's the cabin attendant taking bribes to upgrade someone. And I said, you know what, that makes so much sense.
They didn't have anything with them.
They
literally just showed up.
with them, and they pieced out of the cabin at 3 a.m.
Right, so they might have had 4 hours of sleep in there.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, that was...
But we always talk about that. So my recommendation, if you're ever doing a train thing and you're like, yay, there's only the 2 of us and no one else is booking these 2 things. If you really don't want anyone else in your room, book the whole cabin. Book all 4 beds.
Yeah, in Southeast Asia, the cost of it
is pretty cheap.
It's not that terrible. That to me was the first story because it's one of those situations where it was not a good day.
Yeah.
It continued to not be a good day with the whole bed situation.
Yeah.
And but it's one of those memories that we look back on and we laugh about and we joke about, and it was literally Vietnam was filled with all of these views and all of these emotional moments and stuff with how beautiful it was and all the things that we got to do. And we're always remember that time on the train with the sleeper car and the time you rolled your ankle, and it's
well, do you remember what happened the next day? The next day I lost my wallet.
Oh,
that whole trip was just filled with so many ups and downs.
Not to go into that one. We found your wallet eventually.
Yeah.
But Kayla was not my favorite person at that point for those 24, 48 hours.
Yeah. I don't know how I lost it either. There's nothing I can tell you to.
But I'm also glad that was our second trip not our second trip together, but that was Vietnam. Because if that had been Thailand, our first big international trip together, I would have just been we're never doing this again. You are terrible. This is a stressor. Anyway, moving on. The second story that I did want to talk about in terms of kind of funny travel days, this one's a lot shorter. Yeah. But this one was in Thailand, if I remember correctly. Yep. We were traveling.
I'm saying yes. I know where you're going with
this one
too.
we were traveling. I think we were just going between different countries, so it was a short
cities.
Sorry, cities. Yeah. So it was a short intranational flight, if you will. And we had gone there. We had gone a little bit early by accident / on purpose. We were okay, we need to get there.
There was another situation where we had to get out of the hostel at a certain time.
We did, but it was also we were we're not going to cab because it's a little bit of ways away, and it was going to cost us a little bit much. So we were we'll take a bus, and it was a public bus.
Yeah, it was a great way to see the city. It was going to be cheap. I think it was $3 each to get to the airport.
Oh, probably less than that. It was
30
dirt
cents
cheap.
or something.
Because I remember we looked at their website and we were cool, I know the path we need to take. Yeah. But then I was I don't know the price, because it was showing it there was a price per stop and there was a price per...
Yeah, it was very confusing.
Per wherever, per route, and then there might have been a locals versus a tourist price. So we literally get on, and I think we say, we had our luggage and we're airport, and then I just held out money And I was just like,
Yeah.
you tell me, like, I don't know how much I need. And then the guy just like pointed at the coins and was like, 2 of this and like whatever. Anyway, so like that got fixed. He gave us the tickets or whatever for the bus or whatever it was.
And he told us to like sit up front.
Yeah,
He would show us where it is.
Super great.
Like, super great.
He was
super
like,
nice.
sit up front. He'll point it out, which to be fair, once you hit an airport, pretty obvious that you're at the airport.
Yeah.
But we get there and it was supposed to take us like an hour and a half. Took us like 20 minutes. So clearly we misread the length, or it was a fast bus day, I guess. And we get there and we're like, great, what do we want to do? So
we sat in the food court for a bit.
We sat in the food court.
Because I remember getting...
we were looking for an outlet though, weren't we? We were looking for an outlet or somewhere to sit.
But like one of my favorite things to do when I go away, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen like a snack haul where I try a bunch of different snacks from those countries. One of the other things that I like to do is find restaurants that we have here and see what they have that's a bit different that I can try. And so we went to DQ. Dairy Queen. And I got myself a mango sticky rice blizzard.
So good.
It was so good. And it was so weird.
But good, yeah.
Like having rice in my ice cream was weird.
It was like a rice pudding, but ice cream, and it was good.
It was super good. So if you ever go, get one.
So we did that, and then we were like, we still have 3 hours. Like, we weren't going to just like wait around. And so I think you or I or whatever, we found this lounge.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, like how much is it going to cost us? Oh, well, it's only really for like 2 hours. Like, I think we had like another, like we were there for like 3 hours before our flight, and we're like, this is only for 2 hours. Like so we were like, do we go now and then have an hour to ourselves afterwards, or do we go for the last 2 hours of our wait?
Yeah.
And I think we were just like, you know what, let's just go now. It's fine. And it was a little expensive. It was like maybe $15 each.
A little expensive. $15.
But it was like 15 Canadian, whereas like if you were to go to a lounge in Canada, it's like $50 to $60 Canadian for an hour or two.
Yeah.
So we pay the $15, we go in, and I think this may have been our first lounge that you and I have been into. Yeah. And it was just like buffet, it was like
Wi-Fi, like fast
great Wi-Fi, yeah.
Plugs everywhere.
There's like
bar service.
Forgot about that. There was like maybe 5 people in it, and that was the other thing. The lounges there, or not, I shouldn't say like in the general term, but the lounge that we went to was not the only one. There might have been like 3-4 lounges in there, and this one was like maybe not. I wouldn't say it's the lowest scale, but it was a lower scale one. There was definitely one that was like if you had like a Diamond Elite, you would have been like into the other lounges, but also it was like free food, all you can eat, pretty much.
Well, not free because it was $15.
Right, but I mean, like it paid for it.
You get 2 drinks in you, and that's $15 back home.
Anyway, so we did the 2 hours, and then I think you and I like looked at each other and we're like, "Do we go? Do we say something?"
Stay?
So we just like stayed, and they didn't kick us out because they weren't super busy. But we got I think we got 3 or so hours out of it.
Lots of food. We didn't have to eat. Like it was great.
So that's like a story to me that I always like think back, and I was like, remember how much we love lounges and that, and then I think since then we had gotten like the lounge pass.
Yeah, I think while we were in Thailand, my lounge pass changed.
Yeah, and you got an email, and
I got an email while we were in Thailand saying you have access to lounges now with priority pass through your credit card, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And so we've been into a bunch of lounges since, but I definitely recommend if you are ever traveling outside of North America to check how much lounge access costs, because sometimes you'll be surprised with how cheap it actually is, or not how cheap, but how affordable it actually is when you take into consideration how much would you be paying for food in this airport, how much would you be paying for drinks, how good is the Wi-Fi. Chances are if you're going to a lounge, the Wi-Fi is better. So definitely always check out the lounges wherever you go, even if you don't have like an actual pass. Most of the time, if they're not busy, they allow other people to come in and pay the one-time fee. So.
Yeah. All right, Kayla, so I think we're almost at the end of the time, and we've been talking about travel days, maybe unplanned in some ways, but as this today is kind of a travel day, we've kind of deemed this somewhat of a travel day conversation. So I want to take us out of the car and into the plane real quick with this question. All right. You were traveling on a fairly lengthy flight. Could be 8 hours, could be 12 hours. Like, this is not a 3-hour flight. This is, a decent amount of time. This is a decent airplane that has, access to TV. You could pay for internet. Again, it's the Wi-Fi. You're not going to do much on it, but whatever. Anyway, you're on a plane for, let's say you have 8 hours on the flight.
Okay.
What is you don't have to get super detailed, but what would you do in those 8 hours to keep yourself busy, or how do you like to spend your time on a flight? Because different people are different flyers.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how you at least view yourself as a flyer.
Okay, so chances are, if it's that long, if it's 8 hours, I'm going somewhere different. Chances are it's in a different time zone. So the one thing that I would do before I get on the flight is check to see the time difference, and to try and get myself in the mindset as soon as I get on the plane that that's the time that we are in. So if, for example, I don't know what's 8 hours away.
8 hours away would be somewhere in Europe, and they're about a 6 hour difference.
Okay, so
give or take.
So if I'm leaving at 6 p.m., it's like 12 o'clock there.
Yep.
It'd
be midnight already, and you'd be getting there at 8 in the morning.
Yeah, so
technically speaking,
I would definitely take that into account first. Yep. Because if I was traveling and it was the day, like, I think the best way to beat jet lag is to get ahead of it. And so I think that that's one of the ways that you can get ahead of it, is to plan ahead. And so if I knew that it was going to be 8 a.m. when I landed, I would probably want to sleep, or try to sleep, force myself to sleep on the flight. I change all my my watches, my phone time, and everything like that beforehand. If I can't sleep right away, then I usually like to watch things on TV.
Okay, so that's a good point, because sleeping is big, but I don't want your answer to just be sleep those 8 hours.
The end.
So I'm going to cut this down to two quick questions. One, if you do need to sleep on a plane, how do you prepare for it, or what do you find the best way to sleep on a plane that you need to?
Usually, we don't travel with like travel pillows or anything like that.
We usually don't, no.
But we do usually get melatonin for it.
Yeah.
Like, we're melatonin people. The only time I really use it is when I'm traveling, to help me try to fall asleep a little faster. So I'll pop a melatonin before I get on the flight, usually, if I know that I'm going to sleep right away. And I always try to have comfy shoes. So I usually wear my flip-flops on flights. So that, what?
Nothing. You're one of those feet people.
I'm one of those feet people, yeah. But I'll always, airplanes are often cold, though, so I will bring a pair of socks in my carry-on and put the socks on.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Let's say you have 8 hours and you don't sleep. Maybe the time difference doesn't make sense for you to sleep, so you're wide awake. Yeah. How do you like to spend your 8 hours? Okay,
when I travel, I'm a journaler. I don't journal a lot at home, but when I travel, I do. And so flights are one of my favorite times to get things on paper. So if I've been traveling, if this is my first travel day, chances are I'm telling you all the stories that happen on my way to the airport, or what I'm looking forward to, and things like that. So I'll journal that. And when I'm done journaling, I will usually watch things on the TV. Sometimes, especially because when you're flying on international flights, they don't always have local things. I like to see what kind of pieces of media they're watching on their airlines. That's always fun. I was a film student, and so sometimes I like to check out some of the foreign films, see if any of them have subtitles and things like that. And what else do I do?
I was going to say, just because I don't want us to add too much to the length of this podcast, but I was going to say the one thing that I do enjoy about traveling with you when it is when it's a lengthy flight, even a 3 to 4 hour one, we do this as well. If we're not sleeping, you and I can try to watch a movie simultaneously.
Yeah, we'll press play at the exact same time
on ours, and that's because we don't typically watch now with theaters not being a thing. Yeah. We don't typically watch, we don't Netflix movies. We'll do TV shows.
We watch a lot of TV shows on Netflix.
So for me, I'm like, finally, all of these Academy Award-winning films are
totally
here.
True too.
We'll watch them together. So to me, that's one of the main ones. And that again, 8 hour flight, you get 4 or 5 movies in you. You're done. You're at your destination.
We did buy some card games for the next flights.
We did take, games are always fun.
We've recently purchased a bunch of 2-player easy card games that you could pull out on a tray table and play. So I'm looking forward to doing that this time coming up.
Yeah. I will say, do you read?
Reading usually makes me fall asleep. Yeah. So if in the first scenario, if I can't fall asleep, I'll usually pull out my book and try to read.
I'm the same way too.
And that'll make me fall asleep.
A book. If I'm on the verge of being sleepy,
Yeah.
I start reading it. My mind's like, knowledge, get out of here. Let's go to
Yeah.
bed. And then I'm like, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to do your outro because I think that's your job, but I think we're at time.
Yeah, so thank you for joining me today, Andrew.
I really had no other option, Kayla.
Well, you could have just sat here and listened.
I could have also done a
recorded.
backseat, like driving Miss Daisy situation where you just could have.
Oh man, that would have been cute.
Could have dressed up. Yeah.
That's okay. Next time.
Yeah.
We missed out. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. Is there anywhere that people can find you online if they wanted to follow you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, Andrew G. Martel. You can also check out Kayla, Kayla on the road. I don't know if we want to tell them about your other stuff going on, but because this might be one of the first times you mention it.
So recently I decided to join Twitch. So I'm streaming some video games. Andrew has been on my couch. On that one, it's Kayla on the couch. And Andrew has been on the couch with me, and we've played a couple games. And I've played some computer games, and I will be on there even more. So if you wanted to follow me on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/Kayla on the couch.
And I think ironically, it's kind of the opposite of what we've just been talking about, travel days, and it's like, here we are sitting on the couch. So.
Yeah, sitting on the couch, most of the time in pajamas. You might catch me in my hamster onesie. Who knows? We'll see. But we play some co-op games, but I also like to play games on the Xbox and things like that. So you can join me there if you're interested in watching me play some video games. And as you may or may not know, this is now a video podcast as well. So if you would rather watch your podcast, you can check it out on YouTube on Fridays and on IGTVs every Monday. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. And I hope that this helped you. I hope that we told some entertaining stories. And I hope that now that you know that travel days are the stressor, you can plan in advance for that. But happy planning, and I cannot wait to see you on the road soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.